How's everyone doing? Welcome to the final episode of After the After Hours with your boy TraderPrad. The final day of this week is tomorrow going to be a free fall Friday. Now get ready for tomorrow. Powell going on the microphone. Powell going on the microphone again. Get ready for tomorrow. So I do have a watch list ready, but if you guys are ready, hit that like and subscribe. Hit that like and subscribe. Thank you guys for all the love. Thank you guys for all the support. Started. Why don't we dive into the full screen and hit that like and subscribe. Alright, you haters, how you guys doing? Welcome back to another episode. It's your boy TraderPrad in the house, just turning down the volume here a little bit, and here we go. So how did you guys do today on the market? For me, I felt like it was very slow to start with. There were a couple opportunities, like for example Palantir above 100. It did exactly what I said it would do around the $100 area today. So there were some opportunities around the $100. Later on, the market kind of brought in some volume with some volatility, flip-flop back and forth. But overall, we had a green day, right? Overall, green day, ignoring the intraday stuff. Market did gap up. Market did push up to the north side to start off the day, and still closed, I think, up 2% on the QQQ. So still very, very good, even though we did spend most of the day selling off and pushing to the downside. Still very much a gap up and a green day on the market. But a couple questions as to how the trade deal, the trade war will end up. You know, 1 second we have who's the Secretary Bessent. Secretary Bessent comes out and says the deals aren't going towards the right direction. The next second he comes out and says you know, the deals are actually not going as well as they should be. We might have to do this on a more lower level first before we even take it to Trump. And then literally an hour later, after the Secretary Bessent conference that he was having, you have Trump coming out and tweeting you know, some wild stuff again about how China is not really working together. You know, he would love for Xi to call, but Xi's not picking up the phone, or Xi did not call USA the same way all other countries have been calling US, and so on. So lots of confusion here still. How that's gonna play out. We've had the European Union coming out and talking about you know, how possible tariff deals are not going in the right direction, and they might actually end up staying out there a little bit longer than expected. We still are within the 90-day grace period that Trump had from the most recent tariff conversations. but still very much a question mark on a lot of fronts over here. So market did pop up, but as expected, that pop got matched with selling right away. Gold had a little bit of a selling off to the downside, but overall it's just China versus USA. China versus USA is the only topic at the moment that's basically has been moving the market, right? So watching Baba, Pinduoduo, QQQ, and the basic bunch, the normal, the usual suspects. That's the great movie right there. Watching the usual suspects, along with a couple other names that recently reported earnings and so on. So that's going to be basically tonight's show, where I'm gonna go over some of the names that reported earnings, some of the China stocks, some of the large cap stocks, and then also show you guys what I traded on the day. In the meantime, if you guys have anything that you want me to take a look at, feel free to throw it in the chat. Quickly, talking about the chat, let's say hello to the wonderful viewers. We got Dieter in the house. What's up, D-Man? Always good to see you. TH, the winner, and still Donald J. Trump. Well, we'll see how it plays out. So far, it looks like Xi Jinping is coming out ahead on this war because he hasn't even picked up the phone yet. He's saying that Donald Trump is not even worth talking on the phone. But if they do go, that'll be a pretty interesting event. Imagine Xi versus Trump, settle this out in the UFC octagon, and the winner gets to charge the tariffs to the loser country. And that's how we settled this tariff war. I would respect it so much more. If I'm being honest, I would respect that, well, hell of a lot more than what I'm seeing at the moment from both the sides of the parties. An absolute clown show. This government has been an absolute clown show. I mean, they have a task force yesterday, the anti-Christian bias task force. So what, like, if you go around even using the Lord's name in vain, now you get sent to CCOT, like what, the Venezuelan El Salvador prison for an anti-Christian bias. Like, what are we talking about over here, man? I'm just so confused, and a little confused as to why my face is so red. I guess it's the lighting a little bit. The lighting probably causing my face to be so red. It's usually not this red, right? But it looks really red today. Yeah, anyways, let's get back to the market. Let's start with some of my trades on the day and show you guys how my day went. Looks okay. What looks okay? Donald J. Trump. I mean, I don't know. So far, it looks like Xi is winning to me. Xi is pulling the power move by not even calling Trump at all. Oh, my face. I don't know. I'm looking at the camera. It looks really red for some reason. But maybe it's just the lighting, and maybe that's just normal. And I'm just looking at it for the first time properly. Anyways, let's show you guys my trades on the day. A couple scalps here and there. Overall, red day. Now my month is actually red. So gave back all of the monster month that I built up all of the first few weeks. Is now sadly all given back. But very tiny red day today. I was green on the month, very tiny. So it didn't really matter at all. But here's some couple of trades that helped me out a little bit. S&P 500 short much later on in the day when it did break the low a day, right? The market had a little bit of a flip to the downside. When the market broke the low a day, waited for the 9 EMAs to reject, and it did reject 9 EMA here, and then the second 9 EMA reject is when I got short. Enjoyed a nice little clean $2-3 move short, but when I wasn't even risking that much. I think I was risking 50 cents on this trade, so that was a nice short right there. And then when it came back to that area again, and looks like sellers were there again, I got short. I was in the money, but that move right away, I think this was a little bit of a new spike pot if I remember correctly, and then that immediately pushed right back to the upside. So took my stop, walked away with a nice little winner on S&P 500 today. Here was a really good trade and have in the middle of the day IBIT Bitcoin, very strong yesterday. Okay, today it was not weak, but it also wasn't ridiculously strong like it was yesterday, right? Gapped up, still closed on the green side for Bitcoin, but gapped up and didn't really have too much follow through on that gap up. I was looking for that 53 level yesterday on stream for a long, if it did show me buying above 53, which it did off the open. You can see how off the open the 53 area did hold, and it gave you about a 50-cent scalp on the long side, but later on it just failed to show buyers above 53, and that's where my bias and my notes and my homework preparation comes into play, where I'm looking for the short because the stock is struggling to stay above 53, so getting short because of that and enjoying the ride back to the south side, getting about $1 per share move or so on this. It was actually 70 cents per share, calculating when I exit and so on, but you do get almost $1 per share winner on this trade if you actually got your shares a little bit higher and then got your shares out a little bit lower. Overall, about 70 cents at best. Another attempt over here as the stock pushes back into VWAP. This range keeps on holding, so just taking that range breakdown low, looking for a continuation move back to the south side, not really having that move, so taking my stop and then walking away on Bitcoin for the short side over there. Apple, nice little patter again, quick little scalp as the lower day breaks, taking that scalp and then walking away. Very quick risk to reward trade. You're not risking more than the higher leg of the 2-minute candle of the breakout, and your reward is basically your trailing 2-minute bar highs. You end up getting more than half the time you end up winning on this, a little bit more than half the time, or maybe you could even say 50%, 50-50, right? It's just a coin flip of a trade, but the times that you do lose, you lose like a 50 cents, maybe $1, but the times that you win about $1.50 or $2. So Apple was a quick little scalp to the downside over there as the lower day breaks. And then last but not least, couple small cap stocks over here. SNOA, flat trade on SNOA, but ENSC, I kind of trapped myself on ENSC over here. The idea was to wait for the $5 pre-market high failed break. That never really came into play, but you did get the failed opening range high breakout on this name, which was the trigger to get short. Sadly, I was already short before that, and I got stopped out on the break of this range high, and the stock did exactly what was in my playbook, right? Wait for the opening range 5-minute breakout high failure and then get short. I got stopped out on that, and then I had to get back in with much less size because I was like, oh, I already lost, I don't want to lose more, so I'm getting in with much less size, and then I'm taking the breakout, which I'm trading poorly. It was just an absolute shit show on this name today, which it didn't need to be, right? The trade idea was simple. I didn't need to force the trade because this setup was over here, which it never came to play. Then you have your secondary setup, which is a failed opening range 5-minute high breakout. Then you have your third setup, which is your opening range low breakout. If those three plays are the only way that I'm supposed to be entering on this trade, any other setup is just a no-go. So this one and a bunch of stuff over here is just me kind of FOMOing and trading poorly on these names. Nothing else besides that. ENPH, you guys saw how extra bearish I was on this name yesterday. It did set up the way I wanted to, right? It was weak under 47, it got below 46, it got below the after hour low of 45.50, and it looked like it was going to flush down. So on the pop up, I got short on the pop. Notice how I didn't take the breakdown. I got short on the pop, but I potentially didn't need to give it that far high of a risk. I could just give it to the candle high risk over here and then taking a much smaller loss on this trade. But I decided to give it to that range high, this 1 minute range high, also almost to VWAP at the same time, and I was okay with how much I lost on this trade. The notional value doesn't really matter. It was more so just how could I potentially do better on this trade next time. Overall, it was still weak. It still closed into that $45 area, so showing you that the weakness is still present in this name. This could have just been the overall market being really strong and bullish, some shorts taking, some profit taking, and even though the stock tried to push back into previous ranges, no buying coming into previous ranges, pushing it right back into the 52-week low, which is the $45 area, which potentially will give us a trade setup tomorrow. I'm praying that some sort of a day 2 setup comes into play with the NPH tomorrow, because I want to redeem myself with this trade over here, but don't want to be at the same time overly biased on a trade setup over there and force myself into a trade on that name when there really isn't a setup, right? Palantir, talked about this $100 area yesterday. Notice how in pre-market the high was basically 100, so you could have taken the pre-market high breakout, the $100 area, and basically risked 99 as your re-entry, as your stop. It never really went back below $100 for the rest of the day, really, and you got a clean move all the way up to $103. So that $100 breakout right there on Palantir, you got a retest of VWAP of the $100 again. All of this, however, scared me a little bit from the long side, because the market was really chopping around and it looked like it was gonna sell off. So with the market looking like it wanted to sell off, me looking for the long side on Palantir didn't really jive with me, so I kind of turned myself away from that idea. However, much later, as the market was selling off, Palantir was holding really well, still above the $100. So I figured, if I was to give this an attempt, which I was watching all day, so I was itching to give it an attempt, right? Given that it was one of my strongest ideas from yesterday. I can pull up my watch list for you guys if you guys don't remember, just to show you guys. Screw it, I'm not even gonna bother. But the $100 area was so important to me, and me kind of talking myself out of that trade was bothering me quite a bit, so I had to look for a trade to get in. Notice how I'm saying had to. It's almost like a crackhead ideology sense slash tendency slash methodologies. You don't have to do anything, right? You don't have to take a trade. But anyways, taking that Palantir long off of VWAP. It's a cheap trade, right? Don't really lose anything. Cheap trade, walk away from it. But overall, the stop should have still been the $100 and not just that little candle low, in my opinion. So a little bit more risk potentially could have given me a 1:1 reward. You're long 101, you're risking 100 for a look towards 103 or 104, but given the market, 103, 104 was probably not coming into play, so you're risking $1 to potentially get $1, and you just maybe keep scalping this range if you're really interested in that trade. Besides that, nothing really too special in Palantir later on in the day. Last but not least, gold. 302.70 was the level. Didn't really take the breakdown when the level was breaking down because it was so extended to the downside already. But later on in the day, when it pushed into VWAP, I figured there could be a second leg down for the gold markets, and I tried a short that got burnt out. Then I tried another short and I quickly got stopped out on that one and walked away from that as a very, very, very tiny winner. But this one was a loser, and my biggest loser on the day was the gold markets. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my trades today. Sadly, not too hot, not too cold either, right? Couple winners, couple losers. Overall, basically, down 0.5 R's today, so not too big of a losing day, but time to really bag a good winner on board. There's so many opportunities on the market. It's time to bag a good winner. Jesus Christ, what am I looking at? For every 100 likes this photo Sydney Sweeney gets, I'll make her fatter. No, don't like this photo. What the heck? Why are we liking this? What? Superman, sorry, Spider-Man, is that Superman? That is Superman, right? Yes, Spider-Man versus Superman in a professionally sanctioned MMA fight in Russia. These Russians are wild, yo. Oh, Spider-Man was kryptonite. Damn, Spider-Man got Superman, boys. That is crazy. Alright, let's get to the second part of tonight's stream, is where we talk about the stocks that I am potentially interested for tomorrow. Not too many names on the watch list that reported earnings that I'm interested about, but one really stands out. That's going to be IBM. If you are interested in some gambling names such as LVS, that's one also that stands out. Oh, CMG, Chipotle Mexican Grill. All right, we got a couple of names over here. IBM, CMG, LVS, not really interesting, but fine, we'll throw it in there. We'll throw it in the mix. Why not? That's pretty much it. And then tomorrow, pre-market, I think not too much going on. I guess you have some airline stocks, American Airlines. For the short side, I'm not interested, but if it does have a good earnings report, I might be interested for the long side on the American Airlines name. LUV, don't really care too much about that. Nokia, don't care too much about that. All things come down to what Google does tomorrow after hours. Intel having a little bit of a news today. They announced that they're cutting workforce, so they popped up off of that catalyst. So they're cutting workforce by 20% to reduce costs. That helped them pop up by 5%, but I'm guessing that's just the overall market popping up, giving them a little bit of a boost. But besides that, a couple other names over here that I'm borrowing from the Center Point watch list is NOW, another earnings name. Boeing, that reported earnings recently. ENPH also reported earnings recently. I need to throw in the large cap stocks. That's going to be Nvidia, Tesla. Let me bring in the screen where I am actually typing this for you guys. Nvidia, Tesla, Apple, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Google. I already have the crypto sector, Hood, MSTR coin, IBIT, Palantir's thrown in there. Possibly, what else is worth keeping an eye on? GE, DLTR, GEV. These are the names that recently reported, some of the boomer names. But that's the sad part about them. It's like they are boomer names. They don't really have too much volume. The next day, the volume dies down drastically. It's like, do I really care about trading these names? I don't know. We'll see. QQQ, S&P 500, IWM, and a couple other names such as DIA, UVXY, VXX. Okay, so that's the watch list for tonight. Let's start with going over to BA. I know BA had a monster gap up today, and we were talking about, you know, buying any dips above 163 as long as it does pop up. So it did. A couple good news, but still the China catalyst, you know, they were talking about in a conference call that China's still rejecting a lot of their airlines. China is actually not taking deliveries, so still a little bit of a question over there. But you know, China's not the only other country in the world. There's still, you know, 100 other countries in the world that can partner with America and Boeing. So China doesn't really, I guess, matter that much. They do, but you know what I'm trying to say. Overall, only thing that matters is, you know, what does the stock do tomorrow, and what variables do we get to play with? Is there a gap close? At which point, you know, going back down over here might be seen as a negative thing for a lot of people. For me, going down here and showing support is a much easier opportunity for me to get long than having to battle with this empty space in the middle and then figure out where buyers step in. If buyers step in all the way back into the gap close, yeah, it kind of sucks that we closed the gap. It's like, you know, maybe with the report that Boeing had, you want to see buyers defending higher prices now and fighting to buy the stock as it's now reclaiming the 200-day moving average. But you know, the gap close kind of negates that theory. But as a day trader, going back down there and seeing buyers coming in down there is a much easier trade for me than having to you know, guess where the buyers are gonna come in this no man's land. Not really no man's land, sorry, in this void or shadow realm of an area where the stock hasn't really traded for like a week or two now, right? So let's see what happens. Even after that week or two, you can see how this area has just been a gap. It's like every time we get here, we either gap up or we gap down from this little liquidity pocket. So I want to see if a gap close comes into play, giving us a good long opportunity. But if a gap close doesn't come into play and the stock is already bouncing from, let's say, today's low, that's a bullish indication in itself right there, right? That's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, that the buyers are coming in above the 200-day moving average. They are willing to defend the stock at higher prices. They're willing to buy the stock at higher prices, especially after a recent breakout that the stock had and so on. So if that is the situation that we have to trade with, that is a lot more bullish of a situation. And also a very similar trade scenario where you know, you don't have to guess in the void. You know exactly where buyers are coming in. It's at yesterday's low, so which would be today's low basically. So today's low, today's high, earnings VWAP, and the gap close are some of the levels to keep an eye out for on Boeing. Let's quickly mark in some of these levels. 169 69 169.91, that's today's low, and then the gap close is basically 163.90 163.90. And then we'll be watching this little pocket of area to see if buyers want to step in. Before that, ENPH did push back to 45, today's low 44.80. So we'll be interested to see how the stock plays out now. So we have the after hour low, which was 45.50, 45.70, and you have today's low, which is basically 45. So between 46 to 45, ENPH is ideally, it should not get above that little zone. So if stock does get back above 45 to 46, there's just no more shorts for me. But if it continues to stays below here and the market's also looking weak on pops or there's a chance that ENPH does completely secular its own thing regardless of what the market does. But if, like for example, today it actually followed the market off the open and also followed the market later on going into the middle of the day and into the close. So if market is going to dictate what ENPH does, maybe you want to be careful shorting this, especially if the market's going higher. So shorting this one is still a high priority for me, given exactly how the stock played out going into the end of the day. And 45 to 46, ideally don't want to see the stock getting back above 46 at all. Some crypto names, because you know, we got what, Bitcoin back above 90k, now at 94, 95,000. So looking very bullish for Bitcoin. BTC pushing back into one of the more solid levels that was a support for a little bit of a time, now potentially resistance for some intermediary period before we turn that back into a support. Bitcoin reclaiming its 200-day moving average. Some of the Bitcoin instruments such as MicroStrategy has been really strong and bullish this whole time, and kind of doing exactly what I want to see the stock do, which is show buying above this previous breakout level high. So it is showing buying around this area and getting above 350, especially if Bitcoin looks strong tomorrow. That is going to be the inflection level, the key price point, the psychological price point that matters to me. Obviously today's high, which is almost 355, I think, right? Today's high is 356. So obviously today's high is going to be your resistance area, but 350 is kind of the psychological level. If it gets above that 350 point, then I'm very interested to see how this name plays out for a bigger move up north, especially if Bitcoin has that move up north. Coinbase kind of reclaiming some of its own levels too, so you can kind of use the 200 level on Coinbase. You can see how today's high is actually 200.80, so that psychological level of 200 on Coinbase is the inflection level, but today's high 201, I'll just say 201, is something to keep an eye out for. And above 201, obviously you have this 205 area, which has been previously support, then resistance, now the 50-day moving average. So all those areas of confluence coming into play. Ani is in the house. Ani sent a super chat. Sup Boomer and the rest of the gang. Okay, says the oldest person in the chat, who comes in and calls us a boomer. All right, Boomer. You missed the lights? Yeah, I do too. The lights used to flash and slow on, but that software doesn't work anymore for me. It just keeps on crashing. Pretty annoying. But thank you for the $2 super chat. But also, I don't really get super chats or viewers in the first place, right? So I never really have a reason to have those lights set up anyways, I guess. Okay. Coinbase looking for possible breakout opportunities. Also at its earnings anchor.
AUNY Orange Heart donated $2 through super
around
chat.
that 200 to 205
Sup Boomer and the rest of the gang.
On Coinbase. Pretty cool level, I guess, if it does manage to reclaim above that. IBIT is around that $53. That's this day's high. But today, clearly, we played around that 53 a bit, but went above and below 53 also. So that 53 level was almost like a wishy-washy level at this point. It doesn't really matter too much. Palantir 100 is still that inflection level. It held 100 very well today, so as long as it stays above 100, then it's still very much interesting for a long side. Granted, given how it actually held the $100 area all day today, even after the market moving to the south side, so that just makes that 100 way more spicy. All pre-market cannot go get above 100, and all day, regular day and after hours cannot get below 100. So that just makes that level so much more important for the next few days if it can stay above it. Here comes the names that report earnings today. Ooh, okay, maybe we should have started the stream with this name instead of some of the boomer names, or I should actually rename the boomer sector to Ani sector. You know what? This boomer sector is sponsored by the biggest boomer herself, Ani. Everyone thank Ani for the sector sponsor. We're gonna actually throw in the boomer sector sponsor logo with Ani's face going on for the future. I'll make that animation and so on. Anyways, Ani, great to see you. Song for TraderPrad. What's the song for TraderPrad? He's king of the boomers. Yo, chill out. Not the king of the boomers. Okay, that's Neil and that's Sean. You're in the wrong show. Also hate boomer stocks for the most part. Ford, hate watching Ford. I hate watching Moderna. Is Moderna even considered a boomer name? Anyways, let's head over to the boomer of the most boomer names, I guess. IBM, the oldest company in the goddamn world. At least, not really, but you guys get the idea. A big pop off the earnings report, and then a complete reject off that earnings report. for the rest of the day. So let's quickly pull in the report using our good friends Benzinga. If you're interested in getting awesome deals, like getting 10% off on Benzinga, go check out the link in the description below. For my affiliate sponsors, this segment is sponsored by Benzinga Pro. Click on this link. Click on this link to get 10% off. International business machine coming in with the report for the first quarter. What are we looking at? IBM reported quarterly earnings of $1.60, which beat analyst estimates of $1.40. Revenue 14.54, beating 14.4. Okay. Revenue coming up 7%, up 9% at constant currency. Hybrid cloud up 13%, automation up 14%, data up 5%, transaction processing flat up 2% at constant. Consulting revenues down 2%, strategy and technology down 3, down 1, intelligent operations down 2. Infrastructure revenues down 6, down 4. Hybrid infrastructure, that's basically your cloud revenue stuff, right? That's not a good thing, I think. Hybrid infrastructure, IBM Z, disturbed, I mean, all of these numbers are down, 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 down. What are you doing on the revenue? Revenue of 0.2 billion, down 1%. Okay. Revenue growth once again led by software. What revenue growth? I guess, yeah, you grew by 7% revenue. Okay. Revenue growth once again led by software, combined with our productivity initiatives, drove significant gross margins expansion. Outlook with our focus. Where's the outlook? Second quarter revenue in the range of 16.4 versus 16.75. They are above the estimates, and no EPS outlook, sadly. All things do look fine to me. I mean, there's a lot of down over here, but the revenue is up year over year, and IBM is just such a legacy company that you know, it's so hard for me to look short on this name. But hey, when it sells off like that, it could give us some opportunities to play with. Look at the levels over here, though. Still above its 200-day moving average. Did not get shaken up by the tariff conversations, did not get shaken up by the whole market turmoil that it recently had. So lots of question mark for the short side overall. But hey, this this move cannot be questioned at the end of the day, I guess. Clearly some fund or market maker, some big name decided to liquidate their portfolio or liquidate IBM from their portfolio, and that they did. And then you actually had no buyers coming in and saying, hey, this is actually ridiculous. We actually think that the company belongs back in at least today's ranges, and not down here, so I'm gonna buy it back up. That also didn't come into play. I wouldn't be surprised if that came into play tomorrow, and we do push back into 230s and 240s, because that report wasn't too bad. But I'm not gonna play analyst. I'm just going to let the chart tell me what it's doing, let the stock tell me what it's doing, and then I'll try to play off of it. The report was, honestly, if you ask me, a nothing burger report. So playing off the chart, I guess you're looking to short all pops, right? Just playing off the pure technical chart, you're looking to short all pops as long as the stock doesn't reclaim last week's low, last month's low area. If the stock does reclaim this area, there's just no more shorts for me from there on out. So pretty simple, not too much to really put into effort over there on the trade generation idea for IBM. Pre-market will be very important. Hopefully pre-market you get a even bigger gap down, which would just make my life easier to look for the long on that name, honestly. So watching a couple scenarios for that name. IBM, I think PE should also be in like the teens. Ooh, in the 38. I thought it was in the teens. Never mind. But still not that expensive. CMG, Chipotle Mexican Grill, reporting earnings and dropping initially, but then popping back up. Kind of an inverse move, I guess, to IBM. And anytime I read CMG's reports, it's all about was it the fast lane? Is it Chipotle fast lane, right? Was it Chipotle fast lane or Taco Bell fast lanes? I can't remember now. I'm forgetting. Always talking about, yeah, Chipotle. There you go. They always talk about the Chipotle stuff. Only thing that matters to me is, are they growing in revenue or not? So Chipotle said they're increasing by 6.4% on a year-to-year basis on the revenue. The second thing is EPS and revenue compared to estimates. So 2.9 versus 2.95, not bad. 29 cents per share versus 28 cents per share. Okay, that's fine. Guidance expects 2025 comparable growth to be in the low single-digit range, down from the prior guidance, and that possibly is why the stock went a little bit lower to start off the move overall. For growth in the low to mid single-digit, the company company continues to expect to open. I don't care about all that. However, yeah, initial move was to the downside on CMG, and then a little bit of a correction, I guess. They are still growing on a year-to-year basis. So overall, nothing burger move, honestly. And the daily chart doesn't really get me too excited to look for a trade either. It's not like we're pushing all the way below 44s, and it's not like we're pushing all the way above $50 and $53. So very much stuck in March ranges. So just not a high priority trade for me tomorrow. Let's go see if LVS is in the same basket. Ooh, a little gap up with the rest of the market on LVS. And the earnings report as expected, no move, a no show, a nothing burger. So nothing really happening in the after hours for LVS. Potentially tomorrow, we get a bigger pop up, a move back into today's high or something. But I need to see LVS having volume in the pre-market for me to even be interested at all. Holy smokes, NOW is a $800 name. Okay, that kind of changes things. What does NOW even do? Service now, kind of having that IBM pattern over here. Not IBM. What stock was it? Boeing pattern over here, and the GE pattern where it's about to break out and go higher, and it did do exactly that with the earnings report. Going into $900 area. So basically the 200-day moving average once again coming back into play on this name. I mean, this is a pretty expensive name. The volume's not bad. It's looks like it does about 6 million shares on a surprise earnings report like today. But usually it does about 2 to 3 million shares for an $800 name. That's not bad at all, but it's going to be very illiquid. So the chances are that I'm most likely not even going to be trading this one. I'll be watching it though. We'll see if there's any clear-cut setups showing up for me to take advantage. American Airlines, I feel like if they report negative and they push lower, if I short this name, I'm just going to get yelled at by my manager for most of the like 90% chances I'm just going to get yelled at by my manager if I take a short on the stock at all. So I'm most likely going to ignore the short completely. Only thing I care about is the long, and the only way I care about the long is if the stock is above $10. So I don't care about the earnings report. This is me trying to force myself to not care about American Airlines at all. The only way I will trade this name is if it's above 100 and it's only to the long side. Otherwise, I'm like just ignoring AAL completely. I think there's going to be, also better names out there with much more liquidity. Well, liquidity is not the right way to think about it. There'll be better names out there with higher ATRs and better setups, in my opinion, than American Airlines anyways. So I'm not that interested to really force myself to look for a trade on that one. Last but not least, now you have I guess not yet, actually. We have a couple stocks down here that I want to quickly go over. That's going to be GE. GE very similar to Boeing, right? The pattern is very similar. So if GE pulls back to the 190 area and shows you support above 190, kind of the same idea as Boeing over here. But that would be day 3 on GE tomorrow, and tomorrow would be day 2 on Boeing. So a little difference of situations, but the overall pattern on the daily is very similar. So if GE shows me support above today's low, same idea as Boeing, it is very bullish. But if it does give you the gap close, that's something that you can keep an eye out for also. Just a couple ideas over there to look out for. GE Vera Nova, also a very similar pattern. But this one, I guess you could say, is the best of both worlds at the moment, because you got the gap close and you have today's low at the same area. So if you see today's low holding tomorrow on GEV, that might just be the best of both worlds, meaning you get the gap close and you get the today's low at the same level, which just makes that level a little bit more important, especially if the stock holds it. Whereas you don't have to kind of keep your eyes peeled open to see if GE is the one or if Boeing is the one. You can just go to GEV. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna be watching all three of them to see if either one of them gives me the setup that I'm looking for. Last but not least, Dollar Tree. I was looking for the pullback into 80 bucks today, no dice, I guess, but Dollar Tree is looking like it is getting ready to correct itself to the upside. The China tariffs catalyst is still going to be something to be scared of when it comes to trading stocks like Dollar Tree. For example, if the tariffs with China are not going in the right direction and the trade deals are not going in the right direction, companies like Dollar Tree and other clothing companies are the ones that are going to take problems and get hurt from that, like Nike and so on. Nike almost getting ready for that breakout opportunity. But when the news catalysts do come out in their favor, then stocks like Nike, stocks like Dollar Tree are the ones that are going to take advantage of that news. So keeping these ones on the watch also. Orange over there. Now the large cap, I mean, today's gap up on the market was I was a little shocked by that gap up, and one thing I was not shocked by was the sell off the rest of the day. I mean, a 3% gap up and then expecting the market to go another 3% higher without any real particular news was kind of expected. I guess you did get a news overnight. You got the news that Trump said he does not expect to fire Powell, and a couple good news catalysts coming out about the China deal made things look a lot better than they were. But today a little bit backpedaling, a little bit back and forth. He's still gonna go another day on news and then call Powell an idiot, and then the next day he's gonna come out and say I had no intentions of firing Powell. I feel like he wants to fire Powell, but he is just being held back by Besant and by everybody else. So I think it's just like a finger of it's a click of a button away to talk about firing Powell. Not that he has the power to actually do it, but he so wants to do it, right? So I'm sure all these headlines are just kind of bogus at this point, and his cabinet members, his team is trying to stop him from doing anything crazy and hurting the market a little bit more, I guess, but he can't stop himself. And that's why I said we need to see Trump versus Xi in the UFC octagon, and the winner charges tariffs to the loser. I think that's the only way to really settle this. Coming back to the market though, keep an eye out for the QQQ. Not many stocks are above the Wednesday high where the market had a big candle, right? That is still the more pivotal level for me. Once QQQ gets above that level and shows buying above that level, I would say the bottom's kind of in on the market. But if we are still struggling around that level, I would be a little careful thinking that the bottom's in on the market. Couple of stocks that have gone above that, Apple, I haven't really seen too many names that have reclaimed that big candle high, but some of them are around those areas, right? So just scan for your names that you usually keep an eye out for. Palantir showing you strength today. You know, very, very strong Palantir. SMCI showing some strength today. Apple, we talked about that just now. Some of the Chinese names which I forgot to put on my watch list: Baba, Pinduoduo, Baidu. Make sure you're watching those. Always got to keep an eye out for these China names. What else? Cryptocurrencies, we kind of talked about that a little bit. I guess that's basically it. Nothing really too much to dive into for tonight. Quickly show you guys the econ calendar. What is the econ calendar looking like? Anything fun? We got the jobless claim tomorrow at 8:30, durable goods at 8:30, existing home sales at 10 o'clock, 7-year auction at 1 o'clock, Fed GDP, Atlanta Fed GDP number also at 1 o'clock. So I guess the main event is around 8:30. I'm not sure if the 10 o'clock number really is going to move the market too much. Maybe, you know, Home Depot. I guess existing home sales does matter a little bit for the overall picture and so on. But the 8:30 one matters more for the inflation battle and so on. But yeah, anything with a 3-star at the end of the day is something that you want to be careful for, especially with the current volatility and the current craziness that we are in. You want to be careful for any 3-star event and a 2-star event, because those can move the market. Ooh, Acquisition Corp, boring. Anyways, a couple IPOs coming out on the 25th of April. But two of them are, well, one of them is an Acquisition Corp, so that's a reverse SPAC merger. Expecting to see more of those boring stuff, but we do have a couple stocks over here IPOing on the 25th, which we'll dive deeper into tomorrow, which will be the final stream of the week. So make sure you tune in for that fun stuff. Besides that, I am basically drained out of energy and have a little bit of a headache brewing. Not sure why. Probably because I haven't hit my dab since I got home, so my addiction's kicking in. I need to go hit a dab now. But no, all fun stuff aside, it's time for me to head out. It is time for you to go. You don't have to leave, but you do have to. Is that how you say it? I forgot how it goes. It's what they say in MTV when they're kicking out the people. You don't have to go, but you do have to leave. Or something along those lines. You guys get the idea. I'll see you tomorrow for the final stream of the week. Have a great day on the market. Peace out. TraderPrad. Bye. Today, so pretty good moves across the board. Or it might just be a risk on type of day. So let's see what happens. 8 o'clock tomorrow, as you guys know, we do the stream Monday to Thursday, 8 p.m. Shout out to my affiliate sponsors, Benzinga, Trade Ideas, the #1 scanner to go to, Trader Sync, promo code down below, promo code PRAD15 to get 15% off. I will catch you guys tomorrow, 8 o'clock, same time, same place. Until then, TraderPrad out. Adios.